1. Avoid training when you can. 2. Protect Wutai at all costs. 3. Ugly Shinra soldier dudes must be punished.
Who are you?
Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. My name is Rob. Joining us today is Rosie.
Hello, everyone.
I'm really annoyed with Rosie. I'm very jealous of Rosie because Rosie has been playing Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
I have been. Can I just say, you very kindly sent me on this quest to play this game. So before you start saying that
Before I start framing you for,
you sent me on this wonderful quest, which I'm very grateful for.
It is true. But I am so jealous, Rosie. Not least of which because I've seen you putting together the footage for this. And I keep on looking over your shoulder and going, oh my God, it looks amazing.
Because it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited to talk to you about it today because I feel as if you will understand the amount of excitement I'm projecting right now.
I am excited to hear about all of the things, Rosie. And you've got 7 reasons, basically, why, well, not just Final Fantasy fans, but everyone should be hyped for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Yes, indeed. So the first reason I have is a very simple one, but like we said, everyone should be hyped for this, is because it tells the story of Zack Fair.
Yes.
So for those of you who might not know, Zack is a character who has been mentioned in Final Fantasy VII and more recently Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes.
And this basically...
No spoilers for the end.
No spoilers for the end whatsoever, but this essentially tells the story of him as part of Soldier, or as being a soldier, sorry. So if you've played Final Fantasy VII and you've seen this character and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happened there? Then this is the ideal game, or this is the game for you to play. It's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. And if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII, but you've been curious and you're like, hey, I prefer taking the route of a prequel and then the big sandwich, then...
The big sandwich.
The big sandwich.
The pre-sandwich and then the main sandwich. I guess this is interesting because there are going to be multiple different experiences with Zack. So people who've played Final Fantasy VII, the original, will know who Zack is. Then there are people who have played Crisis Core, the original, on PSP, because we should clarify that this is a remaster of the original PSP game.
Yes.
And one thing I have to confess, Rosie, is I've not played Crisis Core.
I'll tell you
because
what, I'm the same.
I never owned a PSP. So when they announced this, honestly, I was like, oh, finally.
Oh, 100%.
Like this big void of my Final Fantasy VII experience is finally going to be filled. Then there's also people who have maybe come to the series and Final Fantasy VII Remake is their first experience with the world of Final Fantasy VII. And for them, Zack's just going to be this weird guy who comes up at the end out of nowhere. And they're going to be like, who the heck is this guy?
Why is this guy important?
And now... This is why this is so cool, is because this game, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, I love saying it, is going to fill in that story. It's going to fill in the backstory of who Zack is and why his relationship with Cloud is so vitally important to the story of Final Fantasy VII.
And not only that as well, but like with his relationship with Sephiroth as well.
Yes.
Big part of the story.
I'm so excited. Like, over the years, Rosie, like I said, I've not played Crisis Core, but I sort of know what happens in it. I've read up about it. I've heard other people talking about it, and it's always been like I wish I could have experienced that for myself. And now I can. When this guy, I'm so excited, Rosie. I really am.
Honestly, I'm on the exact same boat as you. I had a PSP. I had the pink PSP.
I never had a PSP.
But this was before
My mum wouldn't buy me one.
This was before I was introduced to Final Fantasy.
So you could have played it, Rosie.
I could have.
You could have.
But I didn't know it existed. Little Rosie with her pink PSP playing Loco Roco obsessively.
Rosie
did not know that this game existed.
Well, it's good for both of us that this is coming out, and also, I guess, fans of the original Crisis Core who did play it on PSP.
Yes.
I'm sort of jumping ahead, Rosie. but when they see it, like when I saw this, honestly, I can't believe it looks so far away from a PSP game. I cannot even begin to explain how good it looks.
Well, you're saying you're jumping ahead, but you've actually segued beautifully into point number 2.
Excellent.
We're going to talk about how it is absolutely gorgeous. Like you, I can't believe this was a PSP game originally.
It looks a bit... I just saw Zack walking, and like the light glinting off his sword on his back. It looks, I mean, I don't think it looks quite as amazing as Final Fantasy VII Remake does. Sort of obviously, it is. It's essentially a remaster of a PSP game, but my God, it looks so much better than the PSP original. It's insane. And then like the Ifrit stuff, like I saw you've captured Ifrit performing Hellfire. Honestly, it looks incredible in motion.
It's absolutely mad. Like when I was playing it, I just thought, oh my God, it genuinely, like, because the PSP, you still had those wonderful cinematic cutscenes in the PSP version, and even the PSP version looks fantastic. It's a brilliant looking PSP game. Cannot emphasize that enough. But when, like, you know, as I was putting this, or thinking about this video, I was looking at some comparisons, and even, for example, the brickwork, whereas back on the PSP, it was, you know, just like a nice brick-coloured wall with the square, or the rectangles and stuff like that. Whereas now it's like, you know, each brick, it looks more like a crumbly brick wall, if you know what I mean. It looks like a new texture.
Extra crumbly bricks on
crumbly
PS5.
bricks. But the lighting looks so gorgeous as well. There's a moment when I was in like literally, I just had a cutscene, and then there's a single moment, you know, where you can have a save point before the fight happens, and you're just in this tiny little space, but it's in the forest. And I stood there and I was just like panning the camera around because I was like, oh, it just looks lovely. It just, with the little atmospheric fireflies that were buzzing around and stuff.
But genuinely, I couldn't believe it. Like I was not expecting it to look as good as it does. When I saw you editing it earlier today, honestly, I was just like staring at your screen for a good minute, like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, and the character models look brilliant as well.
It looks closer to PS4 level and PS5 level, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. It looks closer to Final Fantasy VII Remake, I would say, visually, than it does the original PSP game.
Well, Rob,
like, is that good?
You've done it again. Point number 3 is that it's spruced up to look more like Final Fantasy VII Remake rather than the original. I'm loving this. I feel like this is a quiz show.
Yes, I'm doing well. And I promise you, we have not rehearsed this.
No, not at all.
Are you going to talk about the UI in this point, Rosie?
There's so many things. So I think first of all, the big screaming obvious point to show is the UI and all the menus and everything. It has just been completely spruced up to have that cool sort of slick blue, lot of diamondy square vibes.
It's been brought to look compatible with Final Fantasy VII Remake, hasn't it? So it looks, anyone who's played Final Fantasy VII Remake will instantly recognise the menu layout of Crisis Core. Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I'm going to keep giving it its full name because it makes those games feel like part of one family, one story, which is cohesive and satisfying.
Even the tiny details, like you remember on the edge of Final Fantasy VII Remake where you had those little like hexagons, and then just a light just used to brush through them to kind of make. It's got those as well in it, and it just looks.
The hexagons with the light, good.
Just the little wavy light through the hexagons to make it a bit more like cyber and stuff, more like data-y.
Good. It feels like they've done a bunch of stuff they didn't really need to do, but they've gone the extra mile to make this look and feel like a modern game.
100%. I think as well that obviously with the original PSP version, PSP's resolution and screen size was only so big, and there's a lot of information you've got to put in that screen, whereas now, like you said, it's PS4, PS5, they've got so much more room to, you know, make it look smart, and like even the simple things like when you go into your items and equipment menu, you have the side of Zack's face, again like the side for Final Fantasy VII Remake style, where you have just your characters looking at in a certain angle in the distance, but it just looks really smart.
I'm glad you picked this out, Rosie, because I always appreciate that when I go into a menu and there's just a little bit of art or just a little animation,
just a little something,
and it makes you it lets you know that the developers have taken the time to make every aspect of the game as good and as enjoyable for the audience as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And from the little I have seen of this game, it looks like they are doing that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not only the menus that they've sort of like taken, or that they're following the Final Fantasy VII Remake style from. It's also something as simple as the tutorials. You know, when you're about to go into a combat fight, and then on the right you get the little animated segment to show you what to do. So those are included as well. And also the combat, they've slightly changed it to fit more of the Final Fantasy VII Remake style, in the sense of, in the original, like I said, I never played the original on PSP, but from what I've but through my research, I believe it had a similar combat style to Kingdom Hearts in the sense that you had a menu and you pressed X to attack, and then on that menu, if you went down to items, pressed X again. That's how you use an item.
Yeah.
So that was the same with the PSP version, whereas now you just press square to attack, so you can just attack whenever. You can roll, you can dodge at your will, which you could also with the original, but I hope I'm explaining it well.
Yeah, so like the look and also the feel of the combat has been brought in line with Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
So people who've played Final Fantasy VII Remake are going to be able to slip into this.
Yeah.
Did you feel that when you played it, Rosie? Like,
oh yeah, as soon
you
as
felt at home with the combat as soon as you got hands on it.
Yeah, it's not as obviously it's not as dramatic, I'd say, as the Final Fantasy VII Remake combat. You know, where you had the slow motion and stuff like that. It's very much like in time, so you're slashing away. But this also kind of helps with the excitement of the fights, which I'm just going to say leads on to point number 4, which is that the combat is really, really fun. So I was talking about like, you know, how you've got all your menus and stuff like that, but because you don't have those slow motion moments like you did in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you're constantly on the go. Like, you're constantly running around, rolling, blocking, and trying to plan what move you want to do next, slashing away with square with your weapon, and in order to use your items and your materia, L1, if you hold on to that, you have your like designated materia slots.
Okay.
And then you've also got like the item sort of like menu that's already down there for you. So, you know, if you're running away and you don't want to use MP on cure, then I just quickly like get a bit of space, boom, get that potion, going. But you're just constantly moving and planning and watching what the enemies are doing as well. So, you know, if you guard, if you want to roll, anything like that, there are sort of more ability style materias. There was one called I can't fully remember what it was called right now, but it was a big 12 basically.
A big 12.
A big 12.
I
can't believe it. I can't remember what it's called, but it was. I really wanted to use it on some enemies, but because you know they're obviously moving at the same time, they just kept on running away, and I was like, no. So you just might see me just like doing loads of 12s right now, just in the middle of the forest, trying to get these people who are trying to attack me. But I was like, no, I want to do this cool spinny move on you. Come back.
My favourite thing about the combat, Rosie, is that when you beat Ifrit, it says conflict resolved.
Yeah, that's...
Which is really not enemy slain.
Enemy slain.
Conflict resolved.
Yeah, so it's... So obviously it is slightly different to a traditional Final Fantasy VII, as in there's a lot of elements that have been added in, including a DMW system, which I won't lie, I don't fully understand yet, because the section that we played, we sort of went past the tutorial for the DMW.
Right.
But the DMW essentially is like the spinny sort of...
The reels.
The reels that you'll see on the top left. And there are multiple rules where, like, which characters get selected and what numbers next to them. Depending on that, results in a limit break. And I don't know quite what triggered this, but while I was playing, I had 2 instances where I was fighting, and then I had a cool cutscene from the past of like Zack's training. But it's just really cool to also see like these little bits of backstory whilst you are fighting as well. So it's just really exciting, really cool, and I just want to play it again, in all honesty. Oh, but one thing I did forget is that you also have something that's quite exciting, is that the enemies have this ability bar. It comes up, it's all nice and purple and lovely, and it's very like, ooh, ability bar. But when your enemy starts doing that, you basically want to attack them to get that bar either as low down as you can do or gone completely.
Right.
If you get it down completely, then it cancels their ability. So, for example, if it's Hellfire, he would not be doing that.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Because if you just leave it, then you're going to get 100% full blast of their special ability. Changing the topic completely is reason number 5 is a fair bit smaller. We've had a lot of conversations with quite, big topics to talk about. But number 5 is that they've added voice acting in certain scenes which did not originally have it. So
that's cool. I mean, this is going to be one that is really going to be appreciated by people who did play the original Crisis Core, coming back to this game and getting new stuff, new content, new voiced scenes.
Because I didn't know this was a thing, obviously, when I was playing it, but from doing research and from reading up about all these little facts and stuff, there are just some scenes where they've added in the voice acting. There's one with Zack and Yuffie, who I met very early on in the segment I played, and it just adds so much more life and emotion to the scenes and stuff, and it's really, really cool.
It feels more like You know, if you know, it's not just a straight remaster. We've talked about the UI changes, the visual improvements, but also the fact they've added in these extra little voiced scenes as well.
Yeah.
Like, well, I think for everyone, like for fans of Final Fantasy VII, the original Crisis Core, that's incredibly exciting. But also for people like us, Rosie, who this is like a bit of a black hole in terms of our Final Fantasy knowledge.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Point number 6 is that, just like Final Fantasy VII Remake, the music is great.
Oh my god. I don't know why I said it so weird then.
Oh my god.
The music in Final Fantasy VII Remake, honestly, I think it's up there in my top 5 video game soundtracks of all time.
I don't know whether a lot's been changed with the soundtrack. Like we've said, we haven't played the original game, sadly, but apparently there are new soundtrack arrangements that have been made to the game. So I reckon that means that they have changed it in some departments. But either way, I was there, fully headphones on, and I was like bopping my head, fighting it for it, and having a great time.
I can't wait. I mean, if they approach it anyway, they approach the Final Fantasy VII Remake soundtrack, which was taking music that we know and love from Final Fantasy VII and rearranging it and giving it like an epic modern twist. The way they did that was so impactful and emotional as well. So if they're doing anything near as like in Crisis Core, that's huge.
I don't think they've done quite as much of a difference as they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake, because like we've been saying, this is a remaster rather than a remake.
Yeah.
So I think they've basically just maybe amped up some of the original tracks. Again, I'm afraid I can't confirm this as I haven't played the original. But all I can say is that, I was playing it, listening to the music. It might be that the original music's absolutely fantastic as well, and I would love that just as much. But all I can say is just I thought that you'd appreciate knowing that, the music it's pumping. It's great. It gets you in the fight. It gets you in the mood.
Nothing less. I would expect nothing less.
And it has very atmospheric moments as well. And then for the final point number 7 is a nice and simple one, is you should be hyped because it's coming out really soon.
When, Rosie, when?
It's coming out on December the 13th, 2022 on PS4 and PS5.
Oh my god, it's my Christmas game.
Oh my god,
it's my Christmas game, Rosie.
Christmas game! Literally, when I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh my god, we're already coming up to October. October's not that far away, so we really do not have that much longer to wait.
No, it's like 2.5 months.
This is like prime time to, wrap up any games you're currently playing.
Yeah, stop everything else.
Stop everything. Well, just go through those, finish them off, have a lovely time, but make sure you leave your gaming reservation for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Leave your gaming calendars open.
Leave it for this.
Yeah.
Because I had such a fantastic time with it. I want to go back in and play more and play the full thing. And what better time to do it as well with, we had the trailer for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh,
so
don't.
It's just gonna...
I can't handle it, I can't handle the excitement, honestly.
Oh, just keep the Final Fantasy VII train going. The train at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII.
There ain't no getting off of this train we're on. And this train's going all the way to Hype Town, and we're driving it. Choo choo! Oh my god, honestly, seeing this game, seeing you with the footage of this game, Rosie, has made me ridiculously excited. And thank you very much for your 7 points to get me even more hyped.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope my gameplay is showing how much fun I had with this game. It
is, and I hope you in the audience have enjoyed this as well, and I hope you're excited for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Please give us a comment if you are, and also a like. We love likes. And do subscribe, and also hit the notification bell if you haven't already done so, because we are definitely going to be having more on Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion in the lead up to its launch in December, which I just can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of you, Rosie.
So
and annoyed. Goodbye.
Bye all.
PlayStation